Hi, Lynn Zettler here from Core Impact Coaching. Today I want to talk to you about the coach approach. This is something that is kind of known in the coaching world, and it's very popular for coaches to teach leaders how to take a coach approach. So I want to kind of give you some tips on this to get you thinking, because it really is a shift in thinking, the coach approach. It took me a while during my coach training. My teachers would say, coaching is not something you do, it's who you are. And I was like, what does that mean? Well, it really is a mind shift. It's a way of thinking. So I want to give you some of the basics so that as a leader, you can start to instill some of these things from a coach approach, because it definitely helps your leadership no matter what. So by taking this coach approach, and you can do this, by the way, with family members, friends, or your colleagues at work, right? You focus on their strengths and their insightfulness, because as a coach, we always believe that other people, everyone has their own solutions within them. They just need to kind of be teased out. So it's not about telling people what to do. That's the first thing that you have to get over. I found that was a little bit difficult at first, because I am a big problem solver, have been my whole life. And so the first thing I want to do is say, okay, let's look at this and then figure out what to do next. But instead, you really have to walk with the person and help them determine what's best for them. So first, you have to be genuinely curious. Just be curious about things. Ask questions out of curiosity. You want to start with understanding their objectives, right, for engaging in a conversation with you, or talking to you about a situation. You can ask more information about the situation. What do they want to achieve? What does success look like? What's holding them back? What are their perceived barriers? Here's a really good question. What role do you have in the current situation, right? What role did you have in getting into the current situation, right? A lot of times, just those awareness kinds of questions of curiosity can give people that insight into what they're experiencing and why, instead of just being stuck in this problem solving or finger pointing kind of situation. We want to move their mind into a more creative space where they can problem solve themselves. So being really curious and asking those kinds of questions is very helpful, and it helps get everything out on the table. Because if you think about doing a big puzzle and you have all these pieces, if you're missing a piece, it's really going to slow you down. So you want to ask questions so that all the information is getting out on the table. So, and by the way, just articulating that for the person you're talking with is huge. They get so much out of taking it from their brain to their mouth and saying it out loud that it's a very good process. So that in itself has a huge amount of value. The other thing you want to remember is when you're asking these questions, you want them to be open-ended questions. You don't want them to be closed-ended. What I mean is they should not be yes and no questions. They need to be questions that require someone to articulate something. And it's a really hard habit to break sometimes. Let me give you some examples. So many times we'll say, well, have you considered this? Right? That's a question, but it's a closed-ended question. It's a yes or no. Instead, you can ask the same thing, but ask it this way. What have you already considered? Right? So now you're going to find out, what have they already considered? Ask them to articulate how many. We don't even know how many. Another way that we tend to jump in is to say, well, do you think this, and this? Right? We're offering suggestions. Again, no, I don't think that. Or yes, I do think that, right? It's kind of leading to them. So instead, you might want to replace that with, how might you explore that further? They're talking about an idea, about what they're thinking. How might you explore that further? I had a leader I was working with who had a great way of always saying, he just kept this in his back pocket all the time, tell me more about that, right? It's not even a question, it's a request. Tell me more about that. Can you expand on that? Give them an opportunity to articulate more. And also, another question you might ask is, well, can you find someone to help you? Right? That would be another problem-solving question. Instead of asking that, you could say, who do you know that has dealt with this in the past? Just ask, who do they know? They may want to take that next leap to talk to them. They may not know of anyone. But again, that's the kind of different kinds of questions and inquiry that you want. The other thing about the coach approach is that you have to be really good at not judging anything. Put your poker face on and just listen. You have to be a really good listener. And even if you disagree with something that they're being said, realize that that's where they are right now, and that they may not be able to jump to the conclusion you've already jumped to, and your conclusion may not even be correct for them. So be a really good listener. Don't judge what they're saying. That's also a really good trait for coaches, because again, just the articulation of what's happening and saying it out loud and letting someone listen to you is such a gift for people to help them determine how to move forward for themselves. And then lastly, I'm going to suggest that you do what I call pause and pave, right, when needed. So what I mean by this is that sometimes you need to ask a tough question, and it might be a little challenging. And I'll give you an example in a second. But in order to ask that question, you might want to take a pause and pave the road before you travel it, is what I'm saying. So you might want to state what your intention is. Hey, I need to ask you a tough question, and I hope you're not going to take it the wrong way. I'm really just curious about this, right? It's a way of paving the road. It's softening it up so that they don't get defensive. So let me give you an example. You might say something like, Dan, what are you really trying to achieve here? Right? It may sound like you're insinuating that there's some kind of ulterior motive, right? Just especially in the tone that I use there. Instead, you could say, hey, Dan, from what you've said, I'm a little confused about your objective. Would you please tell me more about what success really looks like for you in your eyes? Right? You're paving saying, I'm confused. You might even say, I heard you say this before, now I'm hearing you say this. It's just a very neutral way of helping them stay grounded in what they have said is already important to them, or as part of their processing. So by incorporating this coach approach into your management style and even into your everyday life, you can bring out those leadership skills and help strengthen the relationships. Or you might even help someone figure out a solution for themselves, surprisingly, right? So I hope that's really helpful. I hope you can think about taking a coach approach as much as possible and practicing. If you're interested in more about the coach approach, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to work with you on developing a coach approach for yourself. If you want more information, go to CoreImpactCoaching.com. Sign up for our newsletter there. There's a Contact Us button as well if you want to just reach out to me directly. And there's also a YouTube channel, Lynn Zettler Core Impact Coaching, where you can find more videos just like this. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a great week.